Bom dia. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, we are going to talk about my trip to Brazil. And yes, it was absolutely amazing. My sister and her husband were the most accommodating and open hosts you could ever imagine. Made our stay just absolutely amazing and best vacation ever. Gonna miss it forever, but anyways, this video is more about driving and how crazy driving is in South America, particularly in Brazil. So we'll get to that in a moment. Now, we're not going to be judging, just mainly observing. So there's going to be a lot of situations that obviously would not fly in North America or in British Columbia specifically, but it's just the way it is. And that's how people drive over there. And not to say it again, but that is what it is. So let's just get right into the video. So here we are just flying out of YVR into our connecting flight, which was in Mexico. And then from Mexico to Rio de Janeiro. And then from Rio, we are flying to Natal, which is a smaller city on the coast of Brazil, a little further north from Rio and Sao Paulo, which are obviously the bigger cities and more, commonly visited, let's say. Our city was quite small. It's almost, like a village, very small community, and driving out there was a little hectic, but I've driven in South America before, so nothing unusual for me. Iguanas, there's a city right there, Natal in the red circle. This is what our backyard or front yard looked like. Pretty shitty every day, waking up to this. Absolutely stunning and amazing. We'll miss it forever. There's our apartment up there. So, beachfront property. Here we go. This is what the streets look like. A lot of speed bumps, a lot of potholes, a lot of splits. There's not a lot of stop signs. There's not a lot of traffic lights. Whatever rules do exist, people follow them very seldomly. You just got to look both ways, make sure it's safe, and proceed when it's clear and when it's safe. So a lot of this is a one-way street in particular, I do believe. And on the left is a cashew tree, which is it's the biggest tree in the world. It keeps growing. They actually have to keep trimming the branches because it keeps overgrowing. And it's hard to believe that is a single tree, but it is. It's just one big giant tree trunk that's split into multiple other smaller branches, I guess you could call it. So and that guy should have yielded theoretically, but we're turning left, he's turning left, so I guess it works out. Cobblestone roads, they're everywhere. Sand roads, dirt roads, especially in these smaller cities and smaller communities. Driving out here is completely different than what you would expect in bigger cities. A lot of forks and splits without any, information or any guidelines or any lines whatsoever, or signs telling you where to go and which way to go or how to go. Beautiful, lush greenery. Very hot. This guy is trying to get us to park here so we can go and watch the dolphins. We actually did end up seeing the dolphins in this area here, so it worked out. A lot of excursions. Look at that, just amazing, beautiful views. Can't get tired of that. And now we are going on a little journey. So we'll do a little bit more driving in the next couple of minutes or so. It's pretty much 30 degrees every day, give or take. Sometimes it's overcast, but it's sunny for the most part. So it's pretty hot. Not humid, but but hot and warm. The days are fairly short because we're really close to the equator, so we 5:30 in the afternoon is sunset, and usually around 5 in the morning is where the sun rises. So you have to plan your days accordingly. See the bike up there, and we would call it splitting lanes here, but that's just the way people drive over there. And in a lot of other countries too, splitting lanes is essentially just the way you do things. So a lot of going around and jumping in and out of the lanes. Some people do signal, some people don't. Some people do shoulder checks, some people don't. It is what it is. It's kind of free for all, and you make your way. And then we're turning from kind of a mainish street into a side street through some cobblestone and then onto a single lane road. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of bumps, a lot of speed bumps, a lot of potholes. The roads are not maintained the way that you would expect them to be maintained, let's say in North America. And even in North America, some roads are shit. But it's as you see, it's a completely different environment. And I didn't do a lot of driving. Most of the driving in these videos was done by my brother-in-law, so my sister's husband. I drove once, and it wasn't for any particular reason. I just, didn't want to. See speed bumps, so you always have to be ready for brake checks. And if you're following cars too closely, that's where shit's gonna go sideways. Now we're driving to the city of Natal, so if you see these roads are gonna be a little bit different, bigger, more open, better quality. Still speed bumps though, and crazy drivers everywhere. The speed limits are fairly standard, from 40 to 50 kilometers an hour to 80 to 100 on the highways. They do have a lot of red light and speed cameras, or speed cameras for the most part, so you do have to be careful. Police they don't really stop you on the side of the road for speeding. They do other checks like for drugs and sobriety checks, but for speeding, that's not something that's going to occur. That's what the speed cameras are for. So you see a lot of this behavior that, again, in Canada or North America would be considered a no-no, where you have smaller vehicles, essentially bikes, just kind of splitting lanes and going in between cars and sitting in your blind spots, but it is what it is. Here's one of the forts that we went to. Was one of the sightseeing days. This is still the city of Natal. Beautiful place. One-way street, little parallel park. So in this case, yes, you can parallel park on both sides of the road. And we're off. Yes, that good old Natal special. So as you see, people drive like shit everywhere. It doesn't matter. It's just in places where rules are a little bit more relaxed and not as enforced, then, people get away with more shit. Because that was not a good turn. You always got to be on your tippy toes. And you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. So, to drive here, I think you have to be a really good driver, but you also have to be a very aggressive driver. For passive drivers and for people who are scared to drive, don't drive in Brazil or most places in South America, because you're going to shit your pants. Some more sightseeing excursions. Is another dragon, a freaking dinosaur. They were everywhere, these iguanas. They do have traffic lights in Brazil. They are, you know, a little bit different than what we used to, but they do have traffic lights. They do have crosswalks. Yes, that's how people ride their bikes over there. You cannot turn right at red lights as well, so keep that in mind. If you turn right at a red light, you know, if there's a camera or if there's a cop, you might get a ticket. The lane on the right side, painted blue, is essentially a bus and a bike lane, and you're not supposed to be driving in it, so it's very similar to what we have here in BC. Bus lanes and bike lanes sometimes are specifically designated just for that. You have people, you know, selling water in the middle of the road because it's hot as hell. Speed bumps. Again, those speed bumps are freaking everywhere. I think on one trip, like a 20-minute trip, we counted 50 speed bumps one way, so it's an insane amount of speed bumps. And they even have them on the highways, which I think I'll have some videos coming up on the freeway as well. So it's quite wild. Again, potholes everywhere, turning into a cobblestone street. And in some of these streets, you have to go extremely slow because otherwise you will lose your suspension or you're going to get a flat tire. I have seen a couple of cars pulled over with flat tires whilst being there. So it's not uncommon for that to happen, especially that the road conditions are not the greatest and some of these holes are gigantic. So if you have a car that's, you know, really low to the ground, you're going to get screwed. So if you're going to rent a car in Brazil, get something with a higher suspension. You know, maybe even like a truck or a SUV, especially in these smaller cities. It would be a lot more beneficial than driving something that's lower to the ground, like this little European shitbox that we were driving. I shouldn't say that. It was a nice car. Got some barbecues going on. So this is essentially our backyard. Gaúcho, best barbecue man in the world. Cannot get tired of views like that. I cannot recommend this enough. And on to the next adventure. So this would be sort of like a jungle, I guess. A roundabout, a quite historic roundabout. We're actually driving to the city of Pipa, I believe, in this video. You still have to yield to pedestrians. You have construction zones. You know, the typical things that you would see anywhere else in the world. And now we're driving off to a dirt road to work our way around this construction zone because they're building I think this is some sort of a gate when you enter into the city. Taxpayers' money looks like it's being wasted on something that could have been used for, you know, probably better uses than a freaking gate when you're entering a city. But hey. So a little diversion here, back onto the main road. So again, when you go to South America, expect these things. Their infrastructure is not the same, obviously, so. Got some construction crews working on these electrical cables, I do believe. So power lines. And now I think we're going to do a little bit of the highway. So, you know, 2-3 lane highways. The exits and the entry points are on the opposing side. So a lot of times they will be on the right and then on the left side as well. You still have your shoulder lane for, you know, pulling over or in case of an emergency. Sometimes they actually do have bike lanes and bus lanes as well on the highway. Same way that we do here, you know, kind of like an HOV lane. But as you can see, the road conditions are not the greatest in terms of the quality of the road. Obviously, the weather is great and visibility is great, but the road itself isn't, ideal, especially coming from North America and here in BC, where our roads are pretty nice compared to other places in Canada and North America. Some more obstacles on the road. So you got to move over, give space. Construction workers working in this heat. I think in that day it was well over 30 degrees. I think 36 or 37. So it was pretty hot. And it's like that all year round. And you constantly have people on the sides of the roads, either working or selling things, or trying to encourage you to pull over and sell you some things, or get you to find parking, or to watch your car while you're gone. And this is not just for tourists. This happens for the locals as well. So we have some tamarin monkeys. Watch your toes. They'll get you. They'll get your toes. And there was a lot of tortoises, redfoot tortoises in that enclosure. Another crappy view. Back to driving. No one likes to be stuck behind a truck. Still there. And we're getting on the highway, have some paragliding. Some sand dunes on the left-hand side. A lot of beautiful places to see and a lot of amazing things to do. And back to cobblestone. And again, this scenery changes literally at the flip of a coin. You make a left, you make a right turn, you go off onto a side street, and you are a completely different neighborhood with different roads. And this is why I think having a car with a better suspension in these kind of environments is just so much more beneficial. So you're not, ruining your car and your suspension, because this is really, really heavy on the car. It takes a toll. More dirt roads and cobblestone. And again, if you're paying attention, there are not a lot of signs like what you see in BC or in Canada. There's just constantly signs everywhere. Even street names sometimes are either not there or they're hard to spot. More amazing views. It's a little lagoon. And back on the highway. See, the speed limit there was 60. And it fluctuates. It goes up and down from 60 to 80. You have animals on the road, some sort of a cow. And back to shitty views. And back to Vancouver. So that's it. That's all. I hope you enjoy this video, and we'll see you again very soon. Obrigado.